So this is the variables in the equation table. Each row is telling us how a predictor affects the odds of being placed on academic probation. So let me walk through the column meanings themselves. So we have the beta score, which is the log odds coefficient, how much the log odds of predicting being on probation change with a 1 unit increase in the predictor, or that predictor being present or otherwise. The standard error is the standard error of the coefficient. The wall is the test statistic itself used to test if the beta is significantly different from zero. And that converts to that significance value, that p-value. We're looking to see where it's below 0.05 to suggest that the variable is statistically significant. And then the exponent of beta, which is nothing more than exactly what it says, the exponent of beta, so the calculation, takes that beta coefficient and generates what's called an odds ratio. So how the odds of being on probation change. So let's go through the variables that are statistically significant. So we have math score. Interestingly, we see only 2 of the 4 ACT scores statistically significant relative to the block 0. What that tells us is there's probably some collinearity in there, which we actually saw in the linear regression the same way when we were predicting GPA. So let's look at ACT math score. What it's telling us is for each 1 point increase in ACT math, the odds of probation decrease by 0.886, which converts to about 11.4%. An undecided major, students with the declared major are about 1.55 times more likely to be on probation. Whereas a male student here, about 2.7 times more likely to be on probation. An in-state student, about 1.55 times as well to be on academic probation. And then attended supplemental instruction, we see a negative coefficient here, which converts to an exponent beta of below 1. So students who attended supplemental instruction, when that converts to, are 71% less likely to be on probation. So ACT English, reading, age, legacy, not statistically significant. We did see ACT science is statistically significant, but fairly close in that regard. So some other variables like employed by the school is pretty close. Use tutoring, also pretty close. If we were to take this at 90% confidence, we could argue that these are worthy of exploring further. So what does this ultimately tell us? We're looking for variables that are statistically significant. In other words, they really matter in predicting whether a student ends up on probation. So what we see is ACT math is protected. The higher the score, the lower your risk. Being an undecided major, being male, and being in-state are all associated with higher odds of being on probation. And the most positive predictor that we saw was attending supplemental instruction. Students who attended SI were 71% less likely to end up on probation. These odds ratios shown under the exponent B, and how we convert from log odds to real-world interpretation, which is what we're going to cover next. So let's extend what we have in the coefficient output. So first things first, the rule of thumb on odds ratios. So an exponent B greater than 1 says that the increases the odds of the outcome condition on 1 unit increase or the presence of it. Whereas an exponent beta of under 1 says it decreases the odds, and then if equal to 1 or close to it and it's not statistically significant, we say it has no effect. So what are odds? Odds are just another way to talk about probability, but instead of saying the chance is 25%, we then say the odds are 1 to 3. And then the way in which we calculate it looks like this. So a 25% chance, or a probability of 0.25, would be 0.25 divided by the difference, so 1 minus 0.25, which is 0.75, is an odds of 0.33. 50% chance is a perfect odds of 1, so 0.5 divided by 0.5. Then a 75% chance is 0.75 divided by 0.25, which gives you an odds of 3 to 1. So interpreting odds, let's take, again, these factors that we just saw on the variables in the equation table. An ACT math score with an exponent beta of 0.886. For every 1 unit or 1 point increase in ACT math, the odds of being on probation drop by about 11.4%. The way that's calculated is you take 1 minus that coefficient, and then multiply that by 100 to convert it to 11.4%. Then the male exponent beta of 2.693, being male makes the odds of being on probation 2.7 times higher than being female. So that's 1 minus 2.693, which is minus 1.69 or minus 169%. It's the same way in which we convert to a probability score. And then attending SI, which is an exponent beta of 0.289, students who attended supplemental instruction had their odds of being on probation reduced by 71% because we take 1 minus that 0.289 and we convert that to 71% because that is a binary variable, well, dummy variable as well, but a binary variable that we use whether it's present or otherwise. So now taking the same math that we used, here's a look at the full model with its exponent beta that came out of the variables in the equation, the converted probability, and the way in which we would interpret that in terms of whether that increases or decreases, to give you a look at how that variable would be interpreted, positive or negative, from its value and the probability of change conditioned on either an increase or decrease or the presence or otherwise. Hope you enjoyed this. If you got value out of it, go ahead and hit subscribe, and look forward to putting out more videos for you.